Welcome to the Defense and Aerospace Report. I'm Vago Muradian here at the Air Force Association's annual Air, Space, and Cyber Conference and Trade Show, the #1 gathering of U.S. Air Force leaders from around the world to talk about the service's strategy, future, budget, and technologies. Our coverage here is sponsored by Elbit Systems of America, L3 Technologies, and Leonardo DRS. And we're positively honored to have the Secretary of the United States Air Force, Heather Wilson, with us. Madam Secretary, thanks for the time.
It's very good to be with you.
So let me start. 386 squadrons. Certainly service leadership for a long time has been saying the service is about 40,000 airmen short. There are folks who are already sort of challenging the justification of that. I know it was a 6-month study on the part of the senior leadership. Talk to us about what the intellectual underpinnings of that number are.
Sure. We actually took the Joint Staff operating plans. We looked at the best intelligence estimates we have on where we are and also where the threat is likely to move between now and 2025, 2030. And then we ran about 2,000 different iterations and simulations and war games to look at what we think we will need to execute the National Defense Strategy. And the National Defense Strategy gives us guidance on what we need to be able to do all at the same time. And the starting out with Homeland Defense, the strategic nuclear deterrent, deter and, if necessary, defeat a peer adversary, while also dissuading and holding off a rogue state, and then simultaneously maintaining the effort against violent extremism at lower levels of effort. All of those missions have to go on simultaneously. All of them, they call on all of our services, but every one of them is heavily dependent on the Air Force. And so when we war game those out, we take a look at what we really need to implement the National Defense Strategy. We currently have 312 operational squadrons, which is really the fist of the United States Air Force. It's combat power. And so we have 312, and our analysis says we need 386.
But as you look at this, I mean, right, the Navy has 355 as its model. You know, as a Navy friend of mine said, okay, now the Air Force has a number it can't match any more than we can. A little bit of macabre service humor. But let's talk about the numbers. At the end of the day, this was done to give Congress a number, right, a requirement to fund against. This includes not just 40,000 airmen, which is the easy part of it, but it also includes a lot of hardware. Potentially up to, 5 more bomber squadrons, for example, even at 12 each. That brings us our number north of 150 bombers. Talk to us about what the number is going to be, right? If you're taking this case to lawmakers and you want to say, hey, 486, I need the people, I need the gear, I need an extra 10 billion, 9 billion, 20 billion. What's the number every year that lawmakers and the nation should be considering to help underwrite the Air Force the nation needs?
Well, one of the things, there's a lot of additional work that needs to be done. In fact, there are 5 or 6 different studies over the next 6 months that will be combined and sent up to Congress. But part of this is just to say, all right, you asked us what we need. This is what we need. And the Air Force has never really done that, or at least not in the last 20 years or so. We've always gone year to year. Here's the budget we have, and this is what we would do with it. We really should be telling the country what is required to do what the country has asked us to do.
But at this point, no ballpark assessment for people who want to put ledgers on and begin to put numbers against boxes?
I think we'll have a lot of that over the coming months. We made a conscious decision that rather than wait and reveal all of this 5 months from now, we got this report, this initial report, about 3 weeks ago, and then we just start talking about it now. One of the things that members of Congress tell us all the time is we want more of a dialogue. We want to engage and not just receive a report late in the budget cycle, which March really would be, and we want to engage and understand and learn and then make more informed decisions. And so this is part of our effort to be transparent in that way.
There are those who say, boy, this would have been good to have had, for example, 2 years ago when the budget started to go up. The consensus is 19 is going to be another strong year, 20 flat to even declining. Talk to us about how that affects things. Do you think that this helps you get more money? Conversely, what does your build down or build flat plan look like? Because there's nothing more jarring than saying, hey, we have these upward rising trajectories and we expect to get more money, but you don't. Do you need to sort of trim your budgetary sails given what we expect to see in 20 and beyond?
Every year we are given a budget number to build to within the Defense Department. We also have an obligation to tell the country and members of Congress, as well as people concerned about defense generally, this is what we think we need to implement the National Defense Strategy. Of course, we didn't have the National Defense Strategy 2 years ago. We now have a national security strategy, a national defense strategy, a nuclear posture review that give us very clear parameters within which to develop a force concept. So I think the time is absolutely right to be doing this work.
Two quick questions, because I know the time is short and you're going to get pulled away. There are some who fear that the Air Force is going to start shrinking squadrons, the size of squadrons, to be able to say it has more squadrons. Are you taking that off the table? For example, there are folks who question, for example, will fifth-generation fighter squadrons be smaller than a normal fighter squadron, justified because they have more capability? Are we going to see that kind of sizing construct change to try to get to that 386 number?
This is not a game. This is about combat power and capability. We don't intend to try to come up to a number of 386 operational squadrons and say we accomplished something if we really didn't. So this is additive. This is not about dividing squadrons in half. It's in fact the exact opposite. We need robust, strong operational squadrons, and we're going to be honest with the country about what we need.
One last question about Space Force. I understand that's the President's decision, but there are some who say that the Air Force leadership should have been a little bit more proactive, writ large, to make the case why that's a bad idea. Do you think the Air Force could have done a better case in sort of making the case to say, hey, look, this should stay part of the United States Air Force, a little bit akin to the submarine force? You know, there are some folks who say, you know, if you can create a Space Force, you can create a submarine force as a separate force as well. Do you think the Air Force could have done a better job to sort of tell the Washington community writ large that this may not be that great of an idea?
I think the important thing here is to focus on what is the problem we're trying to solve. Our adversaries have watched us. We are the best in the world at space, and they are developing capabilities to deny us the use of space in crisis or war. That's the problem we're focused on. Probably 12 months ago, the Chief of Staff and I were trying to get enough people to care about space. Now we have the President of the United States, the Vice President of the United States, and the Secretary of Defense and the Defense Department as a whole seized with the issue of how we're going to fight and win in space. And I think that the President has made this a kitchen table conversation, and that's very good for America.
Madam Secretary, thank you very, very much. Look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you, sir.